My child may have autism. A mom mentioned this to me in a consultation a few months back. And her 2-year-old son, he was struggling with immune challenges, but a lot of delays too. Tone challenges, struggling with posture and movement. He also struggled with socialization, eye contact. You could tell in this conversation with mom, she was scared. She had done all the therapies, taken all the medications, done everything the medical model, and all her advisors had told her to do. But at 2 years old, he was still stuck. And she was worried, is it genetics? Is it just we're not in the right therapies? Are we not doing the right things? And so I understood that not only was she worried, she was just scared. We see this so often with moms and kids nowadays, wondering if the little things are adding up to big things and big struggling diagnosis, whether it be autism, big developmental delays, sensory processing issues, things that can affect them success-wise later in life. That's why in this video, I want to talk through the perfect storm that happens to kids when they struggle, why the little things can add up to big things, where they start, what to look at if you're worried about these kind of things, and then lastly, how can we help? How can we help if you are experiencing some delays and maybe you have that same question as that mom that you're worried, how do we get out of it? So when we look at struggles, like big struggles, like autism or developmental delays, oftentimes they get bucketed into socialization and a lot of times communication. But here's the thing, no two children have the same really sequence of this, or they're the exact same developmentally. So it can be really tough to take those two things and put, that square peg into a round hole and throw in any type of diagnosis. This is why we want to go back and look at some of the warning signs, because the perfect storm of child struggles really adds up. And the best way to do this is go back into development, all the way back to birth and development, to say, okay, what are the risk factors for these bigger diagnoses? Now, what we know as pediatric chiropractors is that one of the toughest things a child can go through is a traumatic birth experience or traumatic delivery experience with that birth, meaning that was it an emergency C-section? Was it forceps? Was it vacuum? Was there major struggles there for that baby where they struggled afterwards with things like latch, tone, colic, eating, sleeping, digestion, all of these little softer signs at birth? If they struggled with those things, that tells us, okay, the sequence of development is more stressed out. It's more on that sympathetic nervous system side, and that's going to cause that stress to add up and then put layers on as they go. When you look at big developmental delays, motor delays, autism, sensory struggles, oftentimes the red flags start at around 3 to 4 months when kids should be lifting their head up, engaging in head control. If head control is a struggle, that can be an early sign. Additionally, you get to 7-8 months, sitting up, starting to copy gestures, have some more socialization, communication, little bits of eye contact, that can be worrisome. Then you get to 9-10 months, and if they're still not responding to sounds or interacting, then it says, okay, we need to dig in here. And then it goes into more movement, more speech, more social, and more sensory. But notice the important thing here. All of those little things all are additions to what happened first in development. So like the mom that I explained to you earlier, if she's struggling at 2 and she can go back and say, okay, yeah, he was struggling with digestion, he was struggling with sleep, he was struggling with colic and all these little things earlier on, and then the development just layered on top of that, and now we're in the perfect storm of challenges. And here's really where we get to work, because a lot of times moms like this are saying, hey, we're doing all the things, we're doing the therapies, the OT, the PT, the speech, everything we can. We've cleaned up diet, we've taken away gluten and dairy, we're on all the right supplements, we're even thinking about doing brain-based therapies with it. Those are all really good things, but what we have to go back to is what started first and what was the sequence of that. And oftentimes the sequence is the things that happen first: the difficult birth, the struggling latching, the struggling with sleep, poop, digestion, eating. All those other things are such a big deal at the beginning that we need to look at what is controlling those things to be able to help those things. And the number one thing that controls that and gets jammed up at the beginning of birth is the nervous system, the central nervous system. Through tone, tension, and stress, if the nervous system is stuck, especially up top from a difficult birth, it's going to have trouble to latch. It's going to have trouble to eat. It's going to have trouble to sleep and poop and do all those easy things. And that's where pediatric chiropractic comes in. We want to help the body do those little things with ease. This is why oftentimes at 2, 3, 4 years old, we see kids that struggle still with constipation. They still struggle getting a full night's sleep. They still struggle being in a big sensory environment because those little things never really integrated when they were a lot younger. So with these older kids, we need to go back before we go forwards. We need to focus on the nervous system and focus on those little things. So then when they go to the PT, they go to the OT, they do the nutritional changes, those are easier. They lock into those things and then can learn from those things. The best analogy of this for that I have is actually one that a dad shared with me. His son, he was struggling on autism, and we were adjusting him for a couple months, and he actually mentioned, he says, you know what you're talking about, it's actually like you're trying to open a window for my son. You're opening a window so that way everything else in his life that's good, he can interpret and he can bring into his brain and allow his brain to work and integrate those things. And that's exactly what happens when you help the nervous system to be balanced and to heal. It allows that open window where PT, speech, OT, brain-based therapies, all those things have an entry point so that the body can integrate it, and they help them so much. So if you're a parent that maybe has that question, man, what is going on? Why are the therapies not working? Does my child has autism? Do they have developmental delays? Is it a sensory struggle? We want to help. We would love to not only have a consult with you, but we would love to also look at the neurological based scans of your child to say, okay, here's what the nervous system looks like. These scans are gentle, they're easy, they take 15 to 20 minutes, and they allow us to see a good picture of what the nervous system is doing so we can get after it and we can help it with those little things that add up to the bigger things. So if you have more questions on this, we'd love for you to check out our links, love for you to check out our articles about this, about autism, about developmental delays, about how pediatric chiropractic can help. If you need more, message us, talk to one of our care advocates. They would love to walk you through what that consult would look like and what our 5-step framework looks like for care. So if you need absolutely anything, we are here to help, because we know when you have that tough question, is my child okay? Do they have this? Do they have that? Is it a big deal? We want to unpack that to be able to help them because we know how much they need it. I hope this finds you well, guys, and we would love to help.